Good evening. Welcome back to the Lompoc City Council meeting. From our closed session, we have no reportable action at this time. And if you would all rise, and Pastor Fetterman for the invocation.
Dear God, I thank you for the honor of praying to you with these who have gathered here. I humbly come before you and thank you for your grace, your strength, and blessing in our lives. This season reminds us of the generosity and kindness you have shown to us, and you have allowed to live through us, as seen in how we care for our neighbors and those who have fallen on hard times. The generosity of Toys for Tots and food and bicycles and giving to others and helping our neighbors reminds us of the spirit of Christmas itself. Tonight I pray for your continued wisdom for our mayor, our council, our city leadership, both now and in the coming new year, so they can build upon the many successes we have seen and implement creative ideas that heretofore have yet to be realized. And we also pray for our new city administrator as he begins his new season with us. Our leaders are faced with difficult decisions, long hours and work. Provide them with personal peace in their lives and joy in their task. I pray for the agenda set before them tonight and for all who will speak and for all who will listen. Please give an assurance of what we do that would please you and benefit this city the most. And I pray for those in our community who are unemployed and desire to work, that they would soon find gainful employment. Bring joy to every child's heart this Christmas time, and may those with needs find the resources to be warm and fed. Protect those who protect us. Bring peace on earth and to our hearts and goodwill to all. I stand grateful for you and your faithfulness and your power. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. This evening we have a couple presentations. So our first one is from the Lompoc Unified School District. Assistant Superintendent Sid Haro will give a presentation on the community outreach efforts from the school district regarding Common Core standards in the district schools. Come on down, Sid. Oh, and you got the boss here too. Now bring him up and introduce him at least.
I will.
Okay, all right.
Good evening, Mayor Lynn, council members, City Manager Giuliani, and City Clerk Alvarez. Good evening. Before I update the council and the mayor on our current efforts around community outreach and Common Core, I'd like to defer to the gentleman that pays my check, and that's Superintendent McDonald, to give a brief hello and welcome statement.
Thank you. Good evening. Wanted to come say hi. Thank you for getting us on the agenda, and just Assistant Superintendent Haro is going to talk a little bit about Common Core and some partnerships that we're building here. And then we have another one of our assistant superintendents who's going to be here, Sheldon Smith, who's going to be here for the duration. So he's on another committee of yours. So we have good representation tonight. So any misbehaving, it'll get back to us. Again, thank you for letting us come and kind of talk to you and just give you a glimpse of some things we're doing. And again, welcome the opportunity to partner with you in the future on numerous occasions and numerous levels, because we know we serve, a rough number, 10,000 students, and we know that in order to do that right and do it to a high level, it can't just be us, it can't just be parents, it can't just be city, it needs to be all of us, a real team effort to make this happen. So I took the post August 1, and one of the things we really brought a focus on, and maybe it's a renewed focus on, is that every kid matters. Every single kid we expect to learn, and as the adults, the expectation is we're going to help them learn. We're going to do everything we can to ensure that they're getting what they need. So it's a very difficult job, everything from in the classroom all the way up to the board of directors. But a couple highlights that's happened so far. We've invested about $500,000 in computer-based technology for students, and as you know, Sid's going to talk about Common Core a little bit, but the world we live in is a computer-based world. We all have phones. And part of this is, with students, this is an engagement for them. So instead of pushing back and fighting this, we need to embrace it and really help the technology help us help them. So like I said, we've invested about $500,000 in programs like Imagine Learning, Reading Plus, that these are highly interactive programs that a student will get on a computer and work at his or her level and continue to work at his or her level as they improve. The computer program allows it to go up. So that's just, again, a highlight. And what I think would be a real positive is we come back in a couple months and really show some data to the council of some great results we're seeing already. And again, everything we're doing is rooted in what's best for kids. So as you know, it's a very similar job that the board of directors does, that the mayor does, very similar to what we do. We make tough decisions that impact people every day. I think the easier side on us is we can look at kids and say, we're going to do what's best for kids. Is it always going to be the most comfortable for adults? Probably not. At times it may not be, but we're going to do what's best for kids because we believe every kid can learn, and they're going to learn at their level, and they're going to do great things. So again, we've building numerous partnerships. I know with the mayor we have the CG&E or the CNG filling station. It's, I believe, on somebody's desk in the city government. So we're really trying to build partnerships that not only strengthen the school district but also strengthen the community. It's a great community that I know, from what I've seen, really supports education, really supports those around it, and we want to continue those efforts and really build upon those. So I would like to personally invite any of you to come and visit some of our schools, see some of the programs we're doing, and as this Common Core and kind of a new age in school finance happens, because we can talk to you more about that later, but for the first time in about 30 years, school finance is going to be financed very different in California than it has been, and that's through the LCFF, the Local Control Funding Formula. And essentially what that does for a district like ours, we're going to see more money for specific purposes. For example, English language learners, low socioeconomic students, and we believe that that's a good thing and gives us more resources to meet the needs of those kids. So as those things happen, Common Core, we have a Common Core implementation money, there's going to be some dramatic things happening within the schools that we definitely want to report out, and it's going to be good for kids and good for community. So with that, I also want to thank Councilmember Costa for serving on our Community Connections committee that we've started, and we're really, again, building partnerships that, again, aren't good for me, maybe aren't good for Councilmember Costa. I mean, they're fun, but they're ultimately rooted in what's good for kids and what's doing best for kids. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the Assistant Superintendent of Instruction, Mr. Howard, to talk a little more. Again, thank you. Look forward to coming back and giving some updates, and likewise, I would appreciate it if the mayor came one time. Any of you want to get on the agenda and give us a quick update? Glad to have you and appreciate the support.
Thank you.
Good evening. I won't take up much time, but I'd like to give you just kind of a broad perspective of our work around Common Core. California, along with Lompoc Unified School District, over the past couple of years have adopted the Common Core state standards. And it's been likened to education in the United States. In the past, we used to teach a mile wide, a lot of things to kids. Boy, and I'm going to pause there, because I remember when I was in kindergarten, if you tied your shoes, you were doing pretty good. Nowadays, our first graders and kindergartners are actually getting homework. But now, rather than teaching a mile wide and inch deep, We are focusing in on fewer topics, but going very, very deep. One of the things that's a goal for Lompoc Unified School District and all the other kids in California is in our schools that we prepare them not only for university, but for careers and beyond. So as we work with our children and our families, there are three things that we've been charged with over the next few years to make sure that we do the best job we can with helping kids learn. One is embed technology into daily lessons. That doesn't mean whenever we have a lab scheduled to go travel to the lab and use computers. It means in our daily lessons, kids should have technology embedded in every class, every day, somehow. It also means to provide our teachers and principals with professional development. We want to prepare our teachers to do the kind of job that we know they want to do. And pausing there, to teachers do the hard work. They're with kids every day in the classroom. So we've been charged with ensuring we provide them with the training and professional development to do that. The other is to purchase the materials to make sure that people have the kind of tools to do the kind of work that needs to take place for our kids. The last part that I want to surface, and it may not be that well known about Common Core, but I am quite frankly biased towards it. I believe in it. And that is our schools shouldn't exist mutually exclusive or exclusively from anything else. We need to be an active part of our community. And we need to find ways to do it. I think sometimes it's easy for schools and teachers and principals just to focus on the job at hand, and sometimes to forget that we have jobs because of our children, and the children are part of the community. And so how can we do the best job we can with engaging the community every day? That means our city government, that means institutions of higher learning, that means fraternal organizations. So as Superintendent McDonald surfaced earlier, Councilmember Costa has, and thank you very much, has agreed to serve on our Community Connections Committee. We've begun to start getting real traction. We have members of our local churches, nonprofits, city government, the media, and active parents on this committee. And what their charge is going to be for next year and beyond is how do we make sure and communicate to everybody in Lompoc exactly what we're doing in terms of helping our kids. Quite frankly, whether it's Common Core or not, we should be doing that kind of work anyway. Luckily with Common Core, we're going to get some added resources to make sure we can intentionally support our teachers, professional development for everybody involved, principals, down to our classified. And being in California, it's funny because in my past roles I've worked throughout the United States. Everybody thinks California is totally ahead in technology. We really are intentional over the next few years in trying to bring that up in our schools. So when our kids leave, they are not just prepared to be successful in college and career, they're better than prepared, and they're going to flourish. So I look forward to providing updates periodically, but I also look forward to seeing you in the community. We are going to be having tables, we're going to be making presentations throughout, and try to ensure our community is aware of the good work we're doing. Thank you.
Excuse me, could I?
Sid, I think there's a question. Councilor Lingle?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the presentation. It's very encouraging to all of us, I believe. I have a question that's sort of not on there, but it's a coincidence that you're here tonight. I received an email today, maybe the other council members did, from a community member that said that the Lompoc Unified School District is no longer administering a GED exam, and they want to know if one is available someplace in the community.
Yeah, the GED, Trevor, would you like to share a little bit about this? Thanks.
Yeah, so that's a adult ed in the state of California. Normally K-12 districts run adult ed. We're the only district in the county that still runs a portion of that. And the reasoning is with cuts, just to give you a quick, we would get about 5,000 $5,000 per student. We don't really get that, but just to make it easy. To run the adult ed, we get about $1,200 per student. And it's cost prohibitive for districts to run it. So right now we run an abbreviated version, and the district doesn't offer the GEDs, but we have avenues to get them to the GED. What we offer is the pathway to take the GED. But it's one of those things that we just had a meeting yesterday with Alan Hancock and are going to partner in a grant to try to bring these services, because we know they're needed. They're not, I don't know, they're not as prevalent as we think they are, but they're still needed. And we just want to have something between us, Hancock, and possibly an outside agency that folks can take that avenue through a GED. So we can prepare them to take the GED, and we can get them places to take it. So just to answer that question, I'd be interested in maybe following up with that person somehow to put them in the right connection.
Yeah, actually, I could forward maybe the email
Cool.
to one of you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
just need
Does that answer the question?
That does.
Yeah.
They just want to know if
Yeah.
they have the ability to at least take the exam here.
Right.
In town. So if I get one of the emails, I'll forward it
Yeah.
over to you.
Cool. So that's in a K-12 system, that's always going to be a gap of the learners that need a GED, want a GED, but may not be ready for university or junior college. There's always, right now there's that gap.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Just dovetailing a little bit about that, and I appreciate you surfacing that question, because we know that gap exists, and we know it's important to provide these kind of services. We've actually begun the process of really engaging in a deep collaboration with Alan Hancock, so it's interesting, it's really timely. Yesterday, we spent the whole morning identifying ways that we can ensure to fulfill those services to our community members. And I think we have some exciting news the next time we'll meet with you about some things that Alan Hancock and Lompoc Unified School District are going to be partnering in terms of joint efforts, a number of things that are pretty exciting. Yeah, sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you again for coming. Sorry, Mr. Mayor. And of course, we always invite you back. I reference Ken Ostini, who's been coming from the chamber. I think it's been once a month or so. And it's just really created this culture of communication. So whenever I see him, I can ask him things that I know he's doing, and I generally know what's going on, and that's been very helpful with our relationship. So we would invite you back, once a month, even if you wanted to come, you're more than welcome. So thank you for coming.
It's the only place in Lompoc you can get on TV where 10,000 people are watching you. Okay, and now we will have an update from our Acting Economic Development Director, Lucille Breeze, with regard to the Bike Skills Park, the Kids Moto Park, and the Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council members, members of the community. This evening, we're before you to present a status update on a couple of the projects that we're working on. And the Riverbend Bike Park is the first one. We do have a PowerPoint, and we're presenting you with copies of that and presenting it to the audience as well. The Lompoc Valley Park Recreation and Pool Foundation proposed a bike skills park at Riverbend Park on an area in an existing park that had been environmentally reviewed, and was determined that this area would support a bike skills park. This would be consistent with the uses that were proposed. Sorry. And what I've presented you with this evening is a brief chronology showing in February of 2013, the council approved the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, for for us to work with the committee to bring the Bike Skills Park into fruition. And staff has been working on a regular basis with the members of the committee Recreation Supervisor or Recreation Manager Mario Guerrero is the project manager, and he has been working with Mr. Dave Baker, who is the president of the committee. So we've taken positive steps. There have been submittals of conceptual plans to the city. We've had a development review board meeting to go over the plans. We've had telephone conversations with the consultant. We do have right now the construction plans that are under review, and we are working on a stormwater pollution prevention plan, which is a requirement just before the actual construction can begin. So your staff has been working with the committee on this through the year, and I know Mr. Baker would like to make a few comments to you as well.
Hello. How you guys doing? Thank you very much for having me back. My name is Dave Baker. I'm a member of the Lompoc Valley Parks and Rec and Pool Foundation and the chairman of the Riverbend Bike Park Committee. And I'm excited once again, as always, to come see you. I wish we were out riding bikes right now. However, I wanted to come give an update as to the progress we've been working real hard in the last year. What I just handed everybody was basically the notes I'm working off of to have in front of you so you could see what I'm talking about. It shows where we've been and where we're going. As you all know, I started this project in June of 2011, and I've been working pretty much daily on it since. Anybody that volunteers their time understands the commitment of there's no Monday through Friday on this. This is and we're volunteers with our own jobs, so we work tirelessly to try to find a way to make these things happen. Yes, please. What I'm given also, yeah, I'm missing one. I think Mr. Starbucks already seen that. What started off as an idea of a few guys getting together and putting some dirt jumps together, it has turned into a professionally designed and will be professionally constructed park. The timeline that I gave you matches up pretty closely with what Ms. Breeze gave, starting with when I first came and then going through just to show everybody all the different meetings that we've been through the last nearly 3 years. I gave a second piece of paper there, another sheet that shows our schedule of performance that was agreed upon back in February. I brought that out because we've been working off of that, and it shows that we're a little bit behind. And I'm going to credit some delays to myself being a volunteer and having an active fire season, myself as a firefighter. Our consultants that we hired had a very busy build year, and some of the key individuals with the civil engineers and some other planners trying to get things done during the middle of summer has been difficult. So instead of coming to you and saying, show up on Saturday to ride your bike, we're still in the planning process, unfortunately. But there's good news because we are still moving forward. And what I wanted to, I promised back in February to Mr. Lingle and the rest of the council that I would come back and give an update, but I was hoping to give more information. So at this point now, we've been able to bring water to the site, which is was a pretty big deal to help with the construction plans. We've got most of the dirt we need to get started on the project, and I'm pretty proud to say that our committee has been able to go raise nearly $100,000 worth of cash ready to spend on the construction of the park. We've been working real hard about recruiting professional services, and going back to the initial plans of just a bunch of guys getting on some tractors to now professional, contracted, insured individuals running our project. I'm happy to say that we have recruited some local people to give us a hand and help us out. We've had lots of support on our project. I could count on one hand the amount of people that have had negative conversations about bringing a bicycle park to Lompoc, and most of them involve noise or increased activity in the neighborhood and aesthetics maybe of what it looks like now. And unfortunately, hoping we're deeper in the process, we've been going through the stockpile process of bringing our dirt, bringing our other materials for our parking lot that have been donated through members of the community. I'm happy to say that the local Walmart expansion was able to give us a bunch of our dirt, the new building of the Rocket Town, Dodge, and several other projects throughout town. Some of the next steps that we're getting into, this planning approval phase is almost done, and we're excited that this part's almost done. So we're starting to get into the pre-construction and construction phase. We've initiated our SWIP, as Ms. Breeze talked about, and we're finalizing all the final permits and plans. We're still actively looking to raise money. Working with our consultant, we've been trying to update our projected costs, and those are ever changing because we've been getting lots of donations from the community as far as equipment and materials and services. So been pretty excited about that. Our goal of opening is it changes. I haven't had a timeline that I've met yet on my goal of operation. However, I will say that we're getting real close, and I hope to break ground in the next couple months, and we'll need about 4 or so months of volunteer time to build that, 4 to 6 months. So I'm hoping that this summer we're riding bicycles as a community. I wanted to highlight some of the people that have helped make this happen, from in-kind donations with Lori Barber at Paper Doll Printing, With an Eye Productions, Kaylee Customs, SMS Designs, Mike Townsend Concrete, Shane Kirkland, Barber Builders. These are all people that are volunteering to help build this for our community. Allied Fencing, Sunbelt, RL Johnson, V&J Trucking. These are all people that are going to donate their time and services. And then cash sponsors with members of our community: Barbara Clark, Ben Ortiz, Riley Callis, Nathan Smith, Dr. Ken Kendall. The Lompoc Police Officers Association is helping. The Surf Connection, The Shack, Bicycle Connection, Home Depot, Angela Brooks, family of Nacho Vejar, Specialized Bicycles, and then the top 3 are reserved for last because they've given us the most support in the blind here, with the Healthy Lompoc Coalition, who a year ago when we started this, they gave us some of the initial funds to get our consultant on board and get this plan going. And then we've had some very generous donations from the Santa Barbara Foundation and the Rotary Club of Lompoc. So with all of those names that I mentioned, it's important that we recognize that this community wants this bicycle park, and this community is going to get this bicycle park because we're all stepping up to help out. That's about all I have for the detailed update. Is there any questions?
Any questions from the council? You guys are too easy. Hey, Dave,
Yes, sir.
do you think you can get a BMX bicycle tall enough that I can go around it once without looking like John Wayne on a Shetland pony?
Yes, I will make that happen.
Okay. And you'll teach me how too, right?
Oh, we'll definitely make that available to you.
All right. If I can do it, you guys can
It'll
do
be a
it.
great photo op.
Dirk, come on, man.
No bike shorts.
No bike shorts.
I'd
Councilor
like
Costa.
to end by, we've been in the trenches with city staff and the people that are really making this happen with Mario Guerrero, Teresa Gallivan, Lucille Breeze, Stacy Lawson, Michael McGivney, the attorney Joseph Pannoni, Kevin McCune, Mike Luther, Battalion Chief Stan Hart, Lori Spear, Danny Lara, and everybody on this board that's sitting up here. Really excited to move forward on this project with you. Thank you.
Thank you for coming and giving the presentation. I'm glad you came for two reasons, because now I know exactly what's going on because people are asking. And so I'm excited to say this summer's projected grand opening, and I'm sure we'll have a fantastic event. Maybe we'll give out some helmets and things. But more importantly, so you know that we're still on your side. We still think this is a great project. I know I'm speaking on behalf of council, but I think that we all agree that this is really exciting for all of us, and we support you in what you're doing, so keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. Appreciate all your hard work. Thanks to everybody on the committee.
Okay, thank you.
And now, Lucille, round two.
Thank you. Now we will do a status update on the Lompoc Valley Kids Motorsports Fun Park. And this is the park that is at the entry to River Park. It is specifically for training for smaller children and was opened on March the 2nd of 2013 by the Lompoc Valley Park Recreation and Pool Foundation. This was a key component to the grant, the State of California Off-Highway Vehicle Grant that the city has been awarded to work on the larger motorsport park at the Lompoc Airport. This park has been in operation and operated entirely by volunteers. Oh, I'm sorry. We have a PowerPoint. I forgot. There it is. There's the logo. And then this is the details that I was just discussing. Opened on March the 2nd, constructed by volunteers in a very rapid manner, actually, very quickly put together. But well done and well used and utilized. There are a brief description just of what is out there. It's a training course of approximately a quarter mile, parking, restrooms, benches, a sunshade area, safety class training area. The volunteers have a City of Lompoc volunteer application. The facility is no charge off-highway vehicle facility for children 6 to 12. Operates generally on the weekends and holidays from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. It has been operated 69 days from the opening weekend in March through November the 24th of this year. And we have a brief summary of the number of volunteers, how many riders. There have been about 146 riders, 22 days when the facilities were open, but there were no documented riders, 36 days when sound checks were completed, and the group is responsible for their marketing, and they have a link on the city website to that particular website of theirs. This has done, the volunteers have done a great job of providing the documentation required because they are working off of a grant as well from the state of California. and their training facility is active, and they continue to serve and secure new volunteers. Our recreation manager, Joanne Plummer, is the project manager for this, and so she works very closely with Mr. Carl Creel, who is the chairman of the subcommittee, and he's here this evening and would like to say a few words.
Come on down.
Thank you, Lucille. Good review. Yeah, the park has been operating pretty smoothly for the most part. We do have some marketing to work on. We have had days where we haven't had riders, and I think part of that is marketing, but part of it is issues we have with the initial setup. We're restricting it to 50 cc's, and that seems to be a limiting factor. A lot of people have bikes that are larger and would like to ride, but at this point they're not allowed to. So at some point I think we need to make an amendment to the to the MOU to make it a little more usable for the general public. The other thing is also ages are restricted by the MOU, and I think we need to make an amendment for that also. At this point, it's what?
6 to 12.
Yeah, 6 to 12, and from what we're seeing is there are kids that are younger than 6 that are really good riders that need a place to ride. Believe it or not, there's kids that are 2 and 3 years old that ride very well but have no place to go. So we'd like to do something about that also. From the marketing standpoint, we actually have an employee now, like Lucille stated. Michelle Tugnassini is our on-site operator, and she's going to be working to promote it more, and I think we're going to see some gains from that. But I think the big issues are changing the MOU, and it'll be more usable. So I'm really pleased with the way things are going. The volunteers have done a good job, and it's kind of a test for us for the big facility that's coming. So any questions?
Weren't you going to ask for more volunteers?
What was that?
Weren't you going to ask for more volunteers?
Well, that's ongoing.
But face the camera and ask, because people are watching you. So here's your chance.
If anyone at home wants to help us, please step up. Give me a call. Contact us through the website, but we always need volunteers. And I know the community wants to help, but they're not aware of what to do. But getting a life scan and coming out and help us take care of the kids is good for the community. So thank you.
Thank you.
Carl?
Yes, sir.
In one of the paragraphs, it had mentioned that there were 36 days you did sound checks.
Uh-huh.
And it said that the average was 57.8, a high of 86, a low of 42. What is allowable?
I don't know what the restrictions are, to be honest with you. We've noticed that anything that we have on the park is usually considerably quieter than what's in the riverbed. I think that's an ongoing situation.
So the reason you're doing the sound checks is just out of curiosity? You're not required to do that and keep the noise limit at a certain level?
I don't know that there's a specific requirement for motorcycles. I mean, these are all supposed to be green stickered bikes, and so they're all stock mufflers. So whatever the given bike, we don't have a standard to go by. We just document what they're reading.
Okay, thanks.
But like I said, once again, the riverbed is the biggest issue.
So Bob, under the under the terms of their grant, the bikes that come in there in a green sticker facility have to be unaltered. So what they're doing is they're checking to make sure that the motorcycles are unaltered, they're factory original. That makes sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm just not sure what these numbers mean. We've got some numbers here, but I'm not sure what they're telling me. I mean, a high of 86, is that good or is that bad? A low of 42, I'm assuming that's good.
42 is pretty quiet. 86 is louder than we're talking right now.
Yeah, okay.
Just as a side note, when we do a sound check, we get a reading from the wind blowing through the trees, believe it or not.
And I understand that, but I just don't know I don't know what to make of these numbers. I'm not criticizing them, I'm just don't know what to do with them. So.
Yeah, and I don't know that there's a set standard for these bikes. I assume the industry has a set standard that when they construct the bikes, but we don't know what it is at this point. We're just documenting what we read. But generally, with the highway so close and the riverbed, we sometimes have to wait before we take a reading because of external noise, from other areas.
Okay, I think Ms. Plummer has some information for me.
Beg pardon?
Behind you.
Good evening. To respond to your question, Councilmember Lingle, the MOU does require that they do a sound check every day. Part of the challenges that we've had is with so many different volunteers coming in is keeping that sound check location consistent. So we have noticed some inconsistencies that we're working on. However, because of the nature of that park facility, our goal is to maintain our sound check at about a 65, is that right, Lucille? A 65 dBA. For large special events, we have a dBA maximum of 80 from the sound of origin from a certain number of feet away. For example, at Ryan Park, in the parking lot, the dBA reading can only be 80 from the point of origin. So this one, we're working with the group to try to keep it as consistent at 65. There always was a concern of the sound that's required, and again, there is a sound if you're taking the sound check from the driveway with the trees blowing on a windy day without any motorcycles running at all. So trying to find that consistent location that gives them an accurate reading for the sound that's being put off by the course is what we're trying to get to.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Holmdahl.
Yeah, that 65 is at the property line. And normally if you have an event, a musical or whatever it is, county ordinance says that the property line of that project is 65 decibels. At least it used to be, unless somebody changed it.
Yes, and the location of this facility, as I've spoken quite often with Stacy Lawson regarding this one, is because our property line is on a few different areas, and one of those areas being in the middle of the riverbed. Trying to find that ideal location that's going to work for the group and work for the activity and work for the guidelines has been challenging, but we're working towards a resolution.
Thank you. Round 3, Lucille.
This time I'm going to get the PowerPoint first. Okay, now, this is an amendment to the contract with the Lompoc Chamber of Commerce to include the strategic plan that has been discussed with council. And Mr. Ostini is with us this evening. We have met with him and gone over the vision, oops, went too far. The goal of the Chamber and the Visitors Bureau is to set the standard for excellence in promoting tourism through collaboration with local agencies, and their mission is to be the voice for tourism in the Lompoc Valley. They are working on goals. The first goal in their strategic plan would be visitor interest and attraction. And the objective there is to survey residents at 6 to 8 major hotels on why they're staying in Lompoc. This would provide the Chamber with information on trends to develop future marketing strategies. And they could, the objective of providing their mobile kiosk at a minimum of 3 to 5 community events per year with promotional materials. And then staff would, to staff the kiosk if they had the manpower available, and to include the survey drop box for additional input. Second goal would be business promotions with an objective to provide promotion and discount coupons to groups coming to town. A minimum of 8 per year, working with the Lompoc Unified School District, the Recreation Department, and other recreational programs in the community, golf course, skydiving, etc., the dog show. with the objective to meet at least quarterly with a newly forming hotel association to discuss the marketing opportunities and events to promote tourist visits to the valley. Then the third goal of this strategic plan would be outreach, at a minimum, semi-annually to meet the Chamber's CEO and/or Tourism Visitor Hotel Association Bureau Chiefs to discuss countywide initiatives and further promote the Lompoc Valley, with the objective to continue to seek out new advertising opportunities, print, radio, television, social media, and to use the survey results data that they will be obtaining in Goal 1. We're bringing this information to the council, and I'm sure Mr. Ostini will want to speak. What we would do would bring at the next meeting to bring the council the actual contract with this information as an addendum to actually include the strategic plan with the contract. So that concludes my portion of this, and I'll introduce Mr. Ostini.
Thank you. I think that's actually pretty clear cut, unless there's questions or recommendations for changes. I appreciate Teresa Gallivan and Lucille Breeze working with me on this, as well as Steve Pepe and Janelle Osborne from the Economic Development Committee helping put this together. But a lot of this stuff it's already in the works, and it's just fun stuff. So I look forward to continuing to work with these different organizations around the county, especially spreading out further into the county now, because we're reaching out more to the Santa Barbara area than just in the past. It was Butte and Solvang. Now we're reaching out to Santa Barbara and Carpinteria. So, questions?
Councilmember Holmdel.
Yeah, one of the questions I do have is what specifically are you doing working with Hancock College with what's going to be coming in there next month? What kind of programs have you put together for the local businesses? Because Hancock's going to be taking care of the people coming there. It's going to be up to the city, Lompoc Chamber of Commerce especially, to make sure they come in downtown, not go to Santa Maria and Buell.
Right.
So what specifically have you been doing with the businesses to get them to react to positive, knowing there's going to be people coming to town?
Well, I think I'm not sure if you attended the meeting, Mr. Holmdahl, that the Economic Development Committee did back, at least 6 months ago, to educate the business community in regards to the fact that the Safety Center was going to be opening here soon, to help them understand that. As part of what you see in this contract, some of the packages we'll put together to help promote when groups are coming, saying, hey, look, here's some discount opportunities for you. We've been doing that with some of the youth sporting events that come to town, different groups that are coming to Lompoc for visits or stays, to give them opportunities to see what we have to offer, as well as get discount opportunities.
To follow up on that, along with the Economic Development Committee and the Chamber, have you had a meeting since 6 months ago? Because things have changed.
No, we haven't.
And I still talk to businesses that don't pay any attention. Say, well, I don't know, it's not going to help me. And then they don't realize the number of people coming to town. There's got to be issues that let them know to go out, because Hancock's not going to have time to worry about where the people go when they come here. They're going to take care of what the Hancock needs. Right. It's going to be up to us to make sure they stay in Lompoc and go ahead. And at that meeting we had 6 months ago, we only had, one or two hotels. Now they're more getting involved. So I think that's what I'm looking at, is that what we did 6 months ago has to be followed up and get done again.
Right. Well, as you know, the hotel owners are well aware of the fact this is coming, as I have discussions with them on a regular basis. And with the establishment of the Tourism Investment District, they're well aware, and they're excited because they want to fill those rooms.
Yeah, and I had a conversation last week with one of the hotel owners, and they're actually in the process of creating a formalized response with Hancock. So if someone comes and there's an issue, they would hear about it directly and immediately from a guest. I'm sorry.
The other question I have too is that we are going to have people going to stay in here for more than one night. They're going to come in for maybe 3 months, and has the real estate industry, or have they got involved now, because they're the ones who are going to be leasing a lot of these apartments? Also, homeowners who want to rent apartments. In Santa Maria, when it was over there, had 85 local homeowners renting out rooms. So, I mean, this is kind of stuff that needs to get out to the community, know that's just coming down there to keep them in town.
You know, it's interesting you say that. I just had a discussion with Ron Fairbanks, and I think you all know him, and his units he's developing over there on Laurel and what is it, J Street? One of the units specifically he's developing just for that, and he's been talking to the Hancock folks and leasing that out for longer periods of time for some of the people going to the classes there for longer periods. So it's out there.
Councilmember Costa.
Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you for bringing this forward. I know that I had spoken about this in the past. I'm glad to see this come across the dais. I do have two quick questions. The first is in Goal 1, Visitor Interest and Attraction. It says the objective is to survey registrants at 6 to 8 major hotels on why they're staying in Lompoc. Return 15 to 30% of surveys. Is that current return? Are you doing these surveys yet?
No, we're not. No, we're not. But I've had discussions with some of the hotel owners. They actually collect the data right now, so it's going to be pretty easy to do that. So.
What does that mean, though? Return, Lucille, maybe you know that, Ms. Breeze, return 15 to 30% of surveys?
The goal would be to have that percentage returned of the survey, since people are completing it right there.
Great, thank you.
Hopefully it'll be higher than that.
Absolutely.
But people with surveys, sometimes people just don't like to do surveys. But I think working closely with the hotel owners, we can accomplish that very easily and probably have a higher number than that.
Well, I think that starting us off, I think that that's acceptable anyway. Maybe in the future, what we need to look at is increasing that percentage, and that takes time and money as well. So starting here, I'm comfortable with. The next question under business promotions, a minimum of 8 per year. That's the objective, to provide promotion and discount coupons to groups coming into town. What's the definition of 8 per year? 8 of what exactly?
Different kind of groups coming to town. Currently, most of what we're doing is stuff like youth sporting events. If the soccer tournament comes to Lompoc, I've talked with Joanne about swimming events at the aquatic center, since now we have the timing system. Dog show, Piper fly-ins. We haven't done that with them yet, but that's the goal, is to work with them. Because this next year is a big anniversary for the Piper fly-in, so that's a good opportunity to offer them different things. And we've done that already, mostly with youth sports kind of programs, which hopefully will continue to pick up as our facilities get better.
So is the challenge of that you have to reach out to the businesses every time, or is there any way to get buy-in from them and say, we want to make this standardized so it's easy for everyone and we can keep doing this year after year?
Yeah, I think once we get it really rolling, it'll be easier to do that. Right now, I have to work with the recreation department and the school district to get the information far enough in advance when these groups are coming. And that's, if they're going to reserve a facility for a sports tournament, they do that anywhere from 6 months to a year in advance. So if I have that information that far in advance, we can then get it together, get it to these groups so they know what we have available when they come to Lompoc. So, and we've done a little bit of that already, but we want to definitely expand that.
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the results of these goals. I have to say, I think it was very smart to choose 3 goals. I think that they're very concise and they're reachable, so I'm really happy to see that. And the only thing I wanted to mention is a citizen at Coffee with Ashley approached me and mentioned something, and I was just wondering if you ever heard of it. In England, they have something called Land's End. It's apparently the most westerly point somewhere in England, and it's this very famous place. And apparently people go out to Surf Beach to take pictures at Land's End. It was always a running joke when I was growing up, but I didn't know it was a really honest tourist attraction. So I just wanted to say that. I didn't know if anybody's ever heard of that, but people go out to Surf Beach to take pictures. And so just throwing that out there in case that ever comes across. I was just curious if you heard about that.
I actually have heard that. Just to add a little cute note to that, I got a newspaper clipping from a friend of mine years ago from Alaska, and it showed 3 Eskimos finding the West Pole, and it was Lompoc, California.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. Anything else, Lucille?
No, thank you.
Okay, City Administrator's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council, audience, and viewers. Just like to report that this Friday we'll be having a media event at the industrial property on Central and V at 10 a.m. Friday morning. Just a small news conference to celebrate and share information with the community about the fact that the property owner, Michaela Group, has submitted plans for that property, development plans, and ultimately, once it goes through the process, there would be 17 parcels there that are zoned business park industrial, and so we'll learn more about that as we have our conference this Friday. Thank you.
And that is a 50-acre parcel. It'll be a great day. Any staff requests and announcements?
Nothing.
Thank you. Oral communications. This is your opportunity to talk to us for 5 minutes on any subject. If it is something that's coming up later in the agenda and you can stay, that's better because we'll remember more of it when we get to it. But if you got to go or it's something that's not on the agenda, come on down.
This is a real quick presentation. Ken Ostini, Lompoc Chamber of Commerce. In our efforts in working with the different chambers in the county, as I mentioned earlier, there's a new chamber CEO in Santa Barbara, and he's working very hard to bring all the chambers together. And you may have seen this advertised already, because on January 3rd, right here in City Council chambers, and I will pass copies of this to all of you so you can at least see it. We're working with, again, with all the chambers to have a broadband task force developed to help promote, not just in Santa Barbara County, but San Luis and Ventura County also. So this is kind of the kickoff for that. And don't ask me anything technical because I don't have a clue. I'm just kind of helping coordinate this, and I volunteered to have it in Lompoc, so hopefully we'll get people from the tri-counties here to help do this and work on a grant process to help get us kind of up to speed on broadband in Santa Barbara County. So that was it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yay, yeah, absolutely. Who's next?
Mike Luther, city engineer. I just wanted to mention that the traffic signal at R Street and Ocean is operational as of Thursday night.
Did you get to turn it on personally, Mike? Darn it. Anyone else? Seeing no one rise, we'll close all communication. We'll come back to the council. We have a consent calendar. We have item 1, approval of the minutes of 11/19/13. We have approval of expenditures, payroll of $1,317,000, one expense voucher of $254,000, expense voucher of $1,262,000. Number 3, the memorandum of understanding with the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 1245 AFL-CIO, that represent our non-police, non-fire, non-administrative personnel. Number 4, adoption of ordinance number 1594-13, amending chapter 8.28 of the Lompoc Municipal Code relating to fireworks. And that's it. Is there any item a council member would like to have pulled at this time? Councilmember Lingle.
Mr. Mayor, I'm not going to be pulling it, but I just want to announce that I'll be abstaining from item number 4. Or voting no on it, so.
Okay, we'll pull that item off. We'll vote on it separately. Okay, so I'd accept a motion for items 1, 2, and 3.
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Any discussion? Can we vote, please? That passes 5-0. And a motion on item 4.
I'll go ahead and move we accept item 4.
And a second.
I'll second.
Any discussion on that? Seeing none, can we vote, please? That passes 3-2. Thank you. And now we come around to appointments. This is yours, Councilmember Holmdahl.
My appointment to the communications, I lost my paper anyway. Stephen Bailey, and he's sick tonight. He would have been here, and that's my appointment to that.
Beautification.
Beautification.
And I'd second that. Is there any discussion? And could we vote, please? That passes 5-0. Thank you. And now we come to our public hearing. Adoption of ordinance 1596-13 to adopt by reference the mandatory state building codes as amended and amend the Lompoc Municipal Code to reflect the same. Come on down, Mike.
Good evening, the remaining citizens. They cut up and left. I guess they heard I was coming on. Council member, mayor, council members, city staff. I'm glad we're at this final meeting for the 2013 California Building Code adoption. Now that we've previously introduced the 2013 Building Codes on November 19th of 2013, and we repeatedly noticed this public hearing locally, staff has recommended to council to waive further readings and proceed with the adoption of 2013 version of California Building Standards Code and Title 24 and local amendments as at this meeting. Additionally, I'd like to remind, this was in the initial presentation, I would like to remind council and local citizens, architects, developers, and engineers that we will be holding a workshop to decipher the significant changes to the 2013 building codes and others here at City Hall in the first quarter of 2014. Unfortunately, I won't be here, but I've got the agenda together, and Sarah will be filling in behind me. She's our on-site architect and plans examiner, so she'll be doing a good job behind me. Anyway, I'll continue on here. With the workshop, we'll be also sharing important information for privately owned, publicly accessed commercial properties. That will be about the Certified Access Specialist Program that's been around since 2008, 2009. It's important for property owners in the event of litigation for accessible issues. And we'll have that available for you with all the data that goes along with it during that workshop. Anyway, that is Senate Bill 1608, if you'd like to look it up, and the implementation thereof. So that concludes my presentation, and if you have any questions, I'll do my best to answer.
Councilmember Holmes.
Well, I'm glad to hear I don't have a question, because you are going to have a workshop with the developers and architects and such. I read through some changes, so long as they know what the changes are, it's very important, so that they don't come in and say, oh, nobody told me. So if
Absolutely.
You're going to try and get directly to them.
I have a couple books so far, and I've downloaded some documents from the state as well as other jurisdictions that will help with that noticing and informational sharing. So.
Would it pay to have out there at the desk just a note, whenever you're going to have it, is starting out early, say we are going to have a meeting on this, so that if we don't talk to them personally, they may wind up reading it too when they come in, so they can't come in and say, nobody told me.
Yeah, it will be posted out front as well as on the website.
Okay, good.
So if they come in word of mouth, that of course we tell all contractors when we're in a field that we're going to be having, as well as some local architects have chosen to help out with that program, so that workshop. So we've welcomed them.
Good, thank you.
Councilmember Costa.
Thank you, Mayor Lynn. Is it possible to come back to council after that workshop and just give us sort of the very brief update of what you deciphered?
I'm sure we'll be able to do that.
I think, even just a 5-minute presentation so those who are watching, and so we can become more conversant when we get those questions posed to us in the community.
Yeah, I've scheduled for the agenda for that workshop. It's going to be an all-day affair, so it's going to take some time to get through it, according to what I've read to this point. So we're going to do our best.
Down the line 6 months from now or 4 months from now, whatever you think is appropriate.
It should come up in the next month or two.
So yeah, if you want to just bring it back to a council meeting, city administrator, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take a break, Mike, and we'll go to oral communication. Is there anyone who would like to give us public comment on this ordinance? That was pretty easy. Okay, Chief Latipow and I discussed earlier some a discussion of some wording work on page 4, section D2, and it was not possible for Mike and the chief to come together and kind of nail down a little wordsmithing for that. So when we move forward on this with a motion, I would ask that the council understands and allows them to do just a teeny bit of wordsmithing on D2 to make its intent a little clearer going forward.
Where are we talking?
It would be page 4 of 7, item D, number 2, dealing with when fire sprinklers need to be installed in a building, and
Okay.
just that they're going to work on a little wording to make it a little clearer to everybody.
On existing buildings.
Buildings, yes.
Existing buildings.
To avoid some of the questions that we've had in the past about when and what you have to do. But it turned out to be a little more complex when we entered into it. So, are there any other questions at this time with regard to any of this? Okay, well, let me go ahead and make the motion. That number that we approve, we adopt ordinance 1596-13 by reference, the mandatory state building codes as amended, and the amended Lompoc Municipal Code to reflect the same, and with the understanding that the building department and the fire department will make a little wordsmithing on page 4, item D2, to improve the clarity of it. And I'd be looking for a second.
I'll second that.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Thank you. And is there any discussion at this time? Seeing none, could we vote, please? That passes 5-0. Thank you. And we'll take a 7-minute break. Okay, if everybody can find their seat, please. Okay, our next item will be the introduction of the aggressive solicitation ordinance. Before we begin, I would like to thank Ron Gastineau, a city council member from the city of Crescent City, who, when I was at the League of Cities, I asked the standard question I ask of a lot of people, hey, what's new in your city? And he proceeded to tell me about this great program and show me his flyer and said, yeah, you know, this is going to be really good. We're going to solve a problem. So sometimes when you go to these events, you wonder, am I going to come back with something valuable? And thank you, Ron, for helping us out. And now, Chief.
All right. Action. Members of the City Council, Mr. Mayor, citizens of Lompoc, Merry Christmas. And we are here tonight to introduce to you a ordinance on aggressive solicitation, better known as panhandling. And this is a plan that the City of Lompoc has put together in collaboration with several other groups, which I'll get to later in the presentation. First, I want to show a quick little video here. Let's see if it'll show. Action. Here we go. This is a little video about solicitation from another city in another state in our country, in Illinois.
Hello and welcome to this edition of Cops Corner. My name is Officer Dan Bailey, and today's topic is the new city ordinance on aggressive solicitation. The City of Urbana finds that aggressive solicitation jeopardizes the city's legitimate interests in fostering a safe and harassment-free climate for its citizens, and in preserving its public places as areas where citizens may be free of intimidation or coercion. First off, what constitutes soliciting? Soliciting is a verbal request made in person upon any street, public place, or park in the city for an immediate donation of money or other thing of value. Solicitation does not include engaging in musical performance for donations. So now, what is aggressive solicitation? Soliciting in a group of 2 or more persons, or soliciting accompanied by any of the following actions: touching another person without their consent, blocking the path of a person or the entrance to a business or vehicle, continuing to solicit after the person has refused an earlier request, following or remaining alongside a person who is walking away from the solicitor, making a statement, gesture, or other communication that would cause a reasonable person to feel threatened, or by using profane or abusive language during the solicitation, or following a refusal to make a donation. In addition to the above actions, no person can engage in soliciting when the person solicited is located within 20 feet of an ATM or an entrance to a bank or check cashing business, or on a private property if the owner has asked the person not to solicit or has posted a sign prohibiting soliciting. Please understand that the intent of this ordinance is not to limit an individual's exercise of free speech, but to impose narrowly tailored restrictions on aggressive solicitation to protect citizens from the fear and intimidation accompanying certain kinds of soliciting. If you have any questions on this topic or anything else, send your questions to the email below. We will pick them.
We can make that go. So, okay, so I'm going to give you a little bit of a legal background. As a general matter, the right to solicit is somebody's First Amendment right, and we are not proposing to take that away from a person. The courts have upheld ordinances that put limitations on certain acts of solicitation or panhandling, where the regulations are narrowly tailored, as this gentleman described a moment ago, to address problems unrelated to a particular content of the solicitation, as long as it does not ban all opportunities for solicitations. Free speech. The courts have struck down a number of panhandling ordinances around the country that went too far and regulated what the courts have determined protected speech. For example, soliciting others while standing in the street or highway and anyone soliciting occupants of vehicles is permissible in most situations. Free speech, the courts banned regulations that prohibited solicitation in city-owned parking lots and in front of grocery stores, but the courts upheld the ban of solicitation within 20 feet of an ATM or on public transportation. So what can be banned? Specifically, the court found there was an inherent danger in soliciting near unenclosed ATMs, but because those being solicited were uniquely vulnerable, since they are exposed to passerbys, they generally cannot walk away without leaving their accounts accessible, and their money is at risk and their financial privacy is at stake. Here's an example of what one of our ATMs looks like in the city. You can see that it is out exposed to the public, and in this particular location, somebody would be trapped inside of this little area there that would probably create a situation where the person would be in fear of their safety if they were being apprehended or accosted by somebody trying to solicit. The courts upheld the ban on solicitation in public transportation on the basis that users of public transportation generally do not have the same First Amendment protections as those using a traditional public forum, such as a sidewalk or parks or squares. In other words, they are captive audience in a bus, and so trying to solicit on that bus would not be appropriate, but if they were out on a sidewalk, the person can walk away generally from that location. Based on our research, it appears that the courts have generally upheld ordinances that regulate three types of solicitations. Aggressive solicitation, which is what we're actually titling this ordinance about, solicitation that is intended to or reasonably results in a person feeling intimidated or coerced into donating money or something of value. Certain locations, because of the unique circumstance, a situation is created where the person being solicited is unable to freely avoid being solicited. For example, as I mentioned, being stuck on a bus. And where property owners or those in control of the property have taken actions to limit solicitation on their property. Again, this is a picture of the Starbucks up at the Albertsons Shopping Center. This thing's being a little slow. Check the batteries. Okay, fallacy of panhandlers. They are all homeless. That is not true. They do not have jobs. We have found that that is not true. That they all live locally, and that is not true. We've actually had panhandlers that we've contacted in the city that have come up from Santa Barbara because they do well panhandling in our city. That they report their earnings to the IRS. We know that they do not do that. They do not already accept services from nonprofit organizations. We know that, and we've spoken to several of the nonprofit organizations, and such as the City of Promise, where individuals have been regular residents of their facility, and they're caught out in the shopping centers panhandling. So this proposed ordinance is intended to regulate solicitations consistent with state and federal law. The ordinance may still allow certain types of solicitation that many find irritating or a nuisance, but it prohibits solicitations that result in a person being solicited while feeling vulnerable to a crime or coerced into giving money because are based on intimidation. Specifically, this ordinance prohibits the following types. Come on. Aggressive solicitation, as I mentioned before, someone using aggressive solicitation by techniques or acting in a way that would intimidate a reasonable person into donating money, such as touching the person, following them, or repeatedly soliciting within 10 feet after they've said no. Some locations. Prohibits someone from soliciting in the following locations where, based on the unique circumstances, the person being solicited is especially vulnerable or would reasonably feel vulnerable to a crime. Within 20 feet of an unenclosed ATM, within 20 feet of a bank, enclosed ATM, or check cashing business after dark, in a parking garage or a structure unless with the consent of the garage or the structure's owner, in a parking lot after dark unless with the consent of the lot's owner, within 20 feet of a bus stop after dark, in a public restroom, and within 5 feet of an occupied car unless the occupant has consented. The ordinance also prohibits solicitation in buses, as I mentioned before, and the city has not opened those places as a limited public forum. Therefore, the city may pass reasonable viewpoint neutral regulations. So resources and staffing. We'll get to that. Here we go. Implementation of the proposed ordinance is not expected to impact the police department's resources to investigate and monitor other crimes in the city. Implementation will require minimal additional time spent responding to panhandling calls. Lompoc Police Department already responds to calls for service regarding panhandling and related crimes, and upon the implementation there will be an increased effort to enforce these laws, but enforcement will eventually lead to a decrease in the criminal activity and we will see, it's my belief that we'll see a decrease in those that are panhandling in our city. Did we miss one here? No. Public notification. In researching other cities' ordinances, we looked at panhandling program for Crescent City, as the mayor mentioned. Crescent City Police Department worked with their Human Resources Council and prepared an informational guide that we are going to mimic very similar to, and we're actually in the process of working on that at this time. This is the poster. It says it's okay to say no, and this poster was distributed throughout the business community in Crescent City, and we intend to do the same, trying to elicit some support from some of the businesses. You can see McDonald's, and can't read what the other business is up in the upper right corner, but try to get some sponsorship to help us produce these. And we've also spoke to several of the nonprofits, and some of them are willing to pitch in money to be able to cover the cost of this program. This is a handout that was made for the same city. Again, giving several points, reasons why it's not good to give to panhandlers, and to try to channel people's efforts to, instead of give to the panhandler, to give the money to organizations such as Good Samaritan Shelter, so that the money can be better spent and go further in the hands of some of these nonprofits. So we're going to educate the public about the city's panhandling ordinance. Panhandlers are not always homeless. Giving to panhandlers may have the unintended consequence of supporting drug and alcohol abuse. And the charities and support services that are currently available that are out there in our city, if they want that help. One of the questions that came up while we were working on this proposal is the Fill the Boot campaign that is the Muscular Dystrophy Association, and is held every holiday season with the local fire departments. The Vandenberg Air Force Base Fire Department and Lompoc Fire Department both participated in it this year, and they do well and raise a substantial amount of money in our city each year when they're doing this. In 2012, Chief Latipow and I gotten a little more involved with this than has happened in years past, and we worked with the fire department to encourage them to come up with a better strategy to get the vehicles out of the intersection, off to the side or into the parking lot, so that the donations could be collected without causing an obstruction into the street and potential traffic collisions, or what would be worse is having a firefighter struck by a vehicle. They complied in the last 2 years. We've gotten better at it. They've gotten better at it. And now what we're trying to do is direct traffic into the parking lot where they can collect a donation voluntarily, not intimidating the people in the vehicle, and therefore would be able to safely work around this 5-foot rule that we've talked about with this ordinance. There's also a vehicle code section, or a vehicle code Senate bill that was passed, Senate Bill 586 in 2007, that allows the Muscular Dystrophy Association and local fire departments to be able to run their Fill the Boot campaign. So that's even more unique, and we're well aware of that. So our ultimate goal is to make our city a safer place. According to the Center for Problem-Oriented Policing, and using this Crescent City model approach, enforcement of laws prohibiting panhandling only plays a part in controlling the problem. The other necessary components are the public education to discourage people from giving the money, and informal social control, and adequate social services. And we are working together to bring all three of those in place. There is very little fiscal impact in the city, and the cost of the flyers and posters would be carried by nonprofits and other groups that we can muster, and donations from businesses that were willing to participate. So the staff recommends that the City Council introduce Ordinance 1597-13 by first reading to regulate aggressive solicitation and solicitation in certain locations in the city. These are some of the groups that we have been working with. C3H is the Central Coast Collaborative Effort on Homelessness, and they've been spearheading meetings where we're getting all these groups together. The Good Samaritan Shelter, City of Promise, Lompoc Valley Community Health Care Organization, and others. Again, this is a collaboration that we're trying to approach this together. And we thank you. Merry Christmas from the Lompoc Police Department.
Questions at this time? Well, you did a really good job, Chief. Everybody's speechless. Okay, take a break. We'll come to oral communication. This is your opportunity for public comment on this ordinance. Is there anybody here that would like to talk to us about it? Nope. Yep, there's one. Okay, good.
Well, he did such a great job. Bernie Fetterman, Lompoc. We've all recognized that this has grown in our city in the last few years. My larger concern is not that someone sits out and panhandles, but that the compassionate, generous people of our city are giving to a small percentage of people in need. It's those determined people who sit in front of stores with their makeshift cardboard signs, or they give some sob story that pulls at the heartstrings of our wonderful citizens. I know the mayor, I watched your TAP TV show, and you talked about the Crescent City and boxes that could be placed inside businesses, and we've probably all heard about the parking meters that have been used in Denver, in San Francisco, in Little Rock, in Baltimore, in Atlanta, Cleveland, San Diego, Seattle, Las Vegas, to name a few. They take refurbished parking meters, paint them, and when you feel the need to give and be philanthropic, you put your money in the meter, you turn the dial, it says, "Thank you for caring." And all that money from those meters is collected and distributed to nonprofits or different groups. You mentioned Good Samaritan or City of Promise. Many people know that the Lompoc Community Kitchen is made up of 7 different churches, and every day of the week you can get a hot meal. This last Monday night we served 127 hot meals at our church, and we also provide to-go bags for the next day. We receive no funding from anyone, nor are we asking for any funding. But every Monday, we have to drive to Santa Maria Food Bank, Santa Barbara County Food Bank in Santa Maria, pay our gas, go over there, get whatever food might be there that day. If it's chicken, we're having chicken surprise. If it's pasta, if it's broccoli, we're having broccoli soup. And then we come back. We can take pennies and turn it into dollars. I'm sure most of the other groups can do the same. So my point is this. If rather than a few people with that heart to be out there and sit in front of Albertsons or Vaughn's or wherever, some of them sit for half the day, then they rotate and their buddies come in and sit for the other half of the day. One gentleman says he's a veteran, please give. And one of our officers, I was on a ride-along one day, just simply asked him, can you show me your veteran's card? He had none at all, which I thought was kind of a shame to impersonate a military veteran. Anyway, I'll move on. I love the meter idea. And when the cities have taken them again, they're refurbished. It gives you a feeling of giving. The money's collected. It's not important to me where it goes, but I think we could serve a broader base of people than just those few who have the ability to sit there all day with those cardboard signs and, again, pull on the heartstrings of our people. So whatever you do, I'm grateful for that. I appreciate Chief Ralston's report as well, and thank you for moving forward on this. I want to see everyone helped, but I think there's a better way than has been done thus far. Thank you.
Bernie, did you just volunteer to find out about the meter program, bring that information back to us? Because I think you're right. I think it's outstanding.
I'll send you some emails.
That'd be great. Thank you.
And there's let me see here. I'll give you the mayor's name later on, Mayor Dyer from, let's see, he got the Mayor Buddy Dyer. It's going to come to me in Orlando. They have now done this. I know they're quite a lot larger city than ours and received over $47,000 there. Smaller cities have received up to $12,000 a year in these meters.
If you could find me a smaller city we could talk to.
Okay.
Thank you,
I'll
sir.
work on that. Thank you.
Yeah, I know where to get the meters. Okay. Anyone else for oral communication? Seeing no one else rise, we'll close oral communication and come back to the council. Councilmember Lingle, yeah.
Chief, I guess you can stay there. You've got a microphone. Thank you for your presentation. Thank you for bringing it to us. I guess the message is, and I know you said it, I just want to repeat it, and I believe Pastor Friedman mentioned it, is we have to get across to the community that they need to start saying no, because we're not helping the people that really need the money. I don't want to say that because there are probably a small percentage of people out there that really are panhandling because they need the next meal or something like that. But the majority of money that we're giving to these panhandlers is probably going for, well, it's best said on there, drugs, alcohol, and everything else. So we have to learn to say no. I think your posters will help with that. And again, I want to say that it's not the Fill the Booth campaign we're trying to get rid of. It's not the bell ringer at Christmas, the Red Kettle campaign. We're not trying to shut down any of those. I did have one question, though, and it sort of came up when it talked about 2 or more people. A single individual can come up to me, my wife, and touch them and follow them?
That was, the 2 or more was referenced for the video that was shown by the Urbana Police Department. That's not in our ordinance at all, 2 or more people.
So a single person would be an aggressive panhandler?
Yes.
Okay, solicitor. And then the other thing that came up when you talked about 2 or more people coming up and talking to you on the street something other than money, and I'm assuming this does not relate to this individual, the Latter-day Saints, they'll come up to you in groups of 2 or more and they'll just want to talk to you about the Bible or something. I'm assuming this does not prohibit them from doing that as well.
No, we're not trying to limit churches or groups like that.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Councilmember Costa.
Thank you, Marilyn. This is one of those topics where my position at Lompoc Valley Community Healthcare Organization as Director of Community Health sort of overlaps with my position as a City Council member. It's a really great marriage. So we have, as the Chief stated, there's a ton of credit to be given to the Police Department, who has had continual presence at these meetings of multiple stakeholders. Councilmember Lingle attended one of those meetings as well. But I wanted to make sure I gave credit. I think a lot of what started was one of the officers, Captain Deming, forwarded me a poster, and so we got Crescent Cities like a month or 2 later. But it was one that I forget what it said. It was a very sort of clever messaging that essentially was saying the same thing. And there's also been a lot of other campaigns out there. One says real change, not spare change. There's some really great ideas. And so we are actively working on that, and I'm excited to see that community education piece come to fruition. We're also talking about perhaps a community educational event, even having a town hall on homelessness, including the panhandling ordinance as one component. So I'm really excited about this. At first, I wasn't sure how to approach it, but now that I see that we're kind of doing it as a collective effort, I'm really excited. I think this is an important piece of that puzzle. The only question I had for you, Chief, is oh my gosh, I just lost it. Oh no, I had it. Maybe it'll come back to me. Maybe not.
Thank you for doing that for all of us who are older. Thank you so much.
Having my senior moment a little too early in life. Let me take a quick look, Mayor, if you don't mind.
Let me throw something in and you can think about it. Maybe I'll spur your mind. I think the important thing here is that the ordinance is not the solution. The ordinance is just a tool. The solution is the public relations campaign. And I never really thought too much about it because I don't give them any change. I guess I've known because of a store I ran in downtown LA where I had folks that were always out there begging, and I would see their empty whiskey bottles alongside my building and sometimes rubbing alcohol bottles when they couldn't afford whiskey. So I understood what that's about. But the thing that, if you all remember when Chuck came in a while back and was testifying on spice, that the guy who was in line ahead of him was buying $60 worth of spice with his panhandling revenue from the day. So I think it's safe to say that a lot of the money doesn't go to a good cause, which we would all hope it would. And with this, we can all be putting our money where it does some good, where we can help people that want to be helped and take it away from those that just want to milk us.
Mr. Mayor, for those people that did not follow the spice conversation, you may want to tell people what the spice was they're buying.
Oh, they were buying synthetic marijuana, which we're going to deal with in our next item tonight. We're going to solve a whole bunch of problems. And now, Councilmember Costa, it's not 2 o'clock in the morning, and you already remembered it. Good job.
Yeah, so senior moments, they just come back faster. That's the difference,
That's it.
right? No, I'm kidding. I know in the fiscal impact you talked about no major additional costs associated, but you know, if this ordinance passes, I know it's just the first reading tonight. We'll have that second reading, I believe, coming through. You know, the next morning, those who panhandle won't know, most likely, that this took place. So is there going to be any initial outreach efforts from the officers to inform those people before any kind of enforcement takes place?
We haven't planned anything specifically yet, but I'm sure that we would do that before we'd start writing citations. We'd get the word out to them.
Okay, I think that's an important component.
And if I may, that could be done, it takes 30 days for the ordinance to become effective. So it could be during that 30-day period that discussion is had too.
Thank you. That's something that I would recommend. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Well, in that case, I'd like to make a motion. The council introduced ordinance number 159713 by first reading to regulate aggressive solicitation and solicitation in certain locations of Lompoc. And I would be looking for a second.
I'll second.
And is there any other discussion? Seeing no lights, could we vote, please? That passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to item 8, unfinished business, introduction of ordinance 1598-13, banning the possession of synthetic spice and bath salts. And where'd he go?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm up again. Staff recommends that the City Council introduce ordinance number 1598-13 by first reading to ban the possession of synthetic spices and or synthetic bath salts. And back in November, on November 5th, I gave a presentation about what synthetic spice and bath salts was. Specifically, synthetic marijuana and bath salt are products that are sold in local retail establishments as herbal incense and plant food, respectively. They're labeled not for human consumption, and they mask their intended purpose to avoid FDA regulation, oversight of the manufacturing process. Synthetic marijuana consists of plant material that has been laced with substances we refer to as synthetic cannabinoids that users claim mimic THC in marijuana, the primary psychoactive ingredient in marijuana, and they're marketed toward young people for a legal high. It's widely known that the abuse of spice and bath salts have been responsible for a myriad of overdose-type reactions in people. Some of those extreme cases have been highly publicized via the internet and television. One of the more famous ones is the eating off of somebody's face that was caught on video last year. Bath salts is a moniker or name for a substance that contains man-made chemicals related to amphetamines that often consist of, I'm going to say MDPV because I can't say the regular word for it, methadone and methylone, also known as substituted cathinanones. The term bath salts is not what it sounds like. They are not bath salts. They are not salts that you would use in your bathtub, such as Epsom salts. The DEA has been working over the past 24 months with federal, congressional, state, local, and non-government partners to put policies and legislation in place to combat this threat and to educate people about the tremendous health risk posed by these substances. The Health and Safety Code in California's Health and Safety Code, Section 11357.5, is a section that specifically states that you can't sell or possess for sale any of these types of compounds that are used, bath salts and spices. What there isn't on the books is a law that gives mere possession of bath salts or spice any control. So a young person, if he buys the bath salts, it's against the law, but if he possesses the bath salts, it's not against the law. And so what we are proposing is an ordinance, a city ordinance, to put in place that possession of bath salts or spice will be against a city ordinance law. And I'm assuming that there's a lot of talk at the state legislature level about creating a law for banning the possession of this stuff. But for the time being, we need something in our city right now, and what we're proposing is this ban to prevent young people from possessing this stuff, poisoning themselves. We are dealing currently with the places that we've identified that are selling spice and bath salts. There'll be more on that in the future, but as far as possession goes, this is what this ordinance is focused to deal with. So after reviewing and discussing the proposed ordinance, what we're requesting is the council introduce ordinance 1598-13 for the first reading. And with that, I'm open for questions.
Councilmember Costa?
Thank you, Marilyn. I'm sorry, did I hear you right? Now it will be the prohibition of possession of the substances, and that will be already in addition to what is in effect, which is the sale?
There's already state law that says you can't sell or possess for sale bath salts and spice.
But so then how are I guess our local institutions are selling it, but there's no teeth to the state law?
There has been no teeth to it. And so what we're doing is putting teeth to that piece of it, but we're also putting bigger teeth into the piece of possession. So we're dealing with both fronts. What we're dealing with tonight is just the possession. The law is already on the books to be able to deal with the businesses if they in fact are still selling it.
Do you know of any ordinances in Santa Maria or Santa Barbara?
We're the only city in the Santa Barbara County, to my knowledge, that will have this on the books at this time. We've already got Santa Barbara County showing some interest in it, and a couple of the other cities from Atascadero, Paso Robles, have already asked for copies of the ordinance.
Great, thank you. That's what I'm wondering, that quick drive to Santa Maria and back, and if we can eliminate that, that would be a huge step. So thank you for the work you've done on this. It looks great.
Thank you.
Yeah, my same question is the same idea, is that we could take care of the city of Lompoc, but across the border, which is in Vanderbilt Village and Mission Hills, they can still go out and buy it if somebody wants to sell it. They don't catch them. So until the county puts their ordinance together, then we still just a city.
Right, absolutely.
Any other questions at this time? Okay, I'd like to open this to oral communications, and you're first. Come on down. And I'd like to thank our first public testifier because he's the one that brought it to my attention.
My name's Dale Welch, and I do live here in Lompoc. And I have a son who unfortunately had a good number of problems, and including marijuana as well as a variety of other drugs. And one of the ones that he liked so intense because there was no test that was being done to show that he'd had it. Well, he was in juvenile hall, and I said, what do I do to buy it? And he goes, go to the smoke shop and ask them for Scooby Snacks. This is what it is. Scooby Snacks. Looks like something for a little kid. And so I brought it to Mayor Lynn, and he was kind enough to say, okay, Dale, let me take care of this. And that was almost a year ago, and they've done the work, and hopefully tonight they're reading it. I have 30 days or more to not have it in my possession, but I wanted to get rid of it right now. I opened it today for the first time because I wanted to take a picture showing what the inside looked like, what exactly it had, and now I do remember finding some of that in my son's room one time. Didn't realize what it was at the time. Thought it was just some grass from the ground outside, but no, it was some of that. And so I'm very happy for it to be gone, because one of the problems is these exact same package, you can go on eBay and buy 1,000 of them that are empty, that are the exact same package, and you just buy yourself a little heat sealer, and you fill it with whatever you want. And so when you go buy this from the stores, you don't know what you're getting. They've soaked it in something, but you don't know for sure what they soaked it in. And so you might have a really odd effect on you. And I didn't need my son. He already had enough problems. He didn't need to have something really bad happen to him. And so I'm sorry I was talking out there, but I'm very happy that you're to the point of passing this, because it needs to be a law that they can't possess it. Because my son is a minor, but it says not for human consumption and that it's just potpourri. But boy, why do you pay $15 for a potpourri pack of that size?
Thank you, Dale. Who else would like to speak to us on this subject?
Good evening, Council, citizens. My name's Robert Schmidtke. I live here in Lompoc. You know, over the years, because of jobs I've held, once I was a reserve officer in Hawthorne, and things I've seen. To those who are against an ordinance like this, I should point out that if you're against it, I recommend you buy some for your children and see how they turn out. Go for it. For the rest of us who face social problems beyond imagination, there are states who have taken pretty much all the regulation off of marijuana. It's only a harmless herb, after all, I have heard. And yet it is a gateway drug. There are many drugs. We seem to be filling our prisons with our citizens behind illicit drugs. There are those among us who would scrape the Ten Commandments from the walls of the Supreme Court, as they say that's a religious dogma, and we've got to have separation of church and state. As I read the Constitution, it talked about that, but it was talking about a state-run religion like the Church of England. That's when the Constitution was written. But we twist things. Let's not twist our children. You know, it's so difficult in these times, and it isn't going to get any easier. There will be the extreme left who say, oh my God, you're interfering with the merchant's rights or an adult's rights. Well, simply don't sell it to children. We want to soak in it. It says bath salts. I believe there was a prison guard recently who was under the influence of bath salts, who used a firearm on a friend. He's doing, 25 to life now? As I recollect, you can do anything you want to with a firearm but make a mistake. And he made a beauty. He killed someone wrongly. You know what? I look around our community and I see so many children with children. I see all of the social problems we're facing. Bath salts, that other crap. It's just getting around a law that must now, because of lawyers stretching a point, attorneys, saying, well, it doesn't fit the chemical of this drug, which is illegal. Therefore, it is legal until you write a law making this particular chemical composition illegal. As I see it, alcohol and candy are about 1 carbon difference if you look at it as a sugar molecule. You know, they're shaped differently, but it's only 1 carbon difference. They're doing the same thing with bath salts and other things like that. And they're doing it to our children and our children's children. At some place, we gotta draw the line. God knows how we're going to stop throwing most of the population in jail, how we're going to take the profit out of the real drugs, the speed, the heroin, the marijuana, whatever. I don't know whether we have to legalize it and just let them die in the street or what. God knows. I think about it when I see the results on TV and I see it in the streets. Your decision tonight, Council, is an important decision. For me, I think this stuff should be illegal to possess. But can we make it illegal to possess? Give it a shot. Let's see how it comes out. Prohibition has rarely worked, but we can try, depending on what the penalties are. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Seeing one, no one rise, we'll close public comment and we'll come back to the council. Are there any questions for the chief?
I just wanted to make a quick statement, Chief. Thank you. It's good to be proactive and not reactive in these things.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say I don't remember my classmate's name from high school in 1969 when she went to college. And at that moment, LSD was not illegal. And so she took a trip and never came back. It was a fatal trip. I can see her face, but I can't think of her name. So maybe today we can take a net out of it for Dale's son and other kids in town. And with that, I would move the staff recommendation that the council introduce ordinance 1598-13 by first reading to ban the possession of synthetic spice and synthetic bath salts.
Second.
Are you reaching for your mic there, Chief?
You'll have to school me on this part of it. Okay, say this again. I am missing something.
Oh, no, I thought you were reaching for your
Oh,
mic.
no, not at all.
Okay. Your finger was hovering. I didn't want to leave you out.
I was just lazy and didn't move my arm.
We see you reaching. Okay, is there any further discussion from the council at this time? Seeing none, can we vote, please? And that passes 5-0. Thank you, Dale.
If I could just say thanks to Joe Pannoni and your staff, because your staff did an excellent job with both of these ordinances and the staff reports preparing this for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. And now you probably have about 100 cities that'll want your work product. You know, that is one important thing. You don't realize how much stuff we borrow from other cities and how much other cities borrow from us. I think you borrowed from Redlands on this one, didn't you? And they're the first one down the road. Crescent City on the other one, so we all help each other, especially us little guys. Okay, item number 9, new business, consideration of the second annual Lompoc Valley of the Flowers Criterium Race on Sunday, May 11th.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council, staff members, audience here and at home. I'm going to give the police chief a little break from speaking now and take this one on. Tonight we're here to discuss the consideration of the second annual Lompoc Valley of the Flowers Criterium Race on Sunday, May 11th, 2014. Staff recommends that council authorize the city administrator to sign an agreement with Mike Hecker of Stump Grinder Productions to conduct a criterium event on May 11th, 2014 here in Lompoc, to approve a $5,000 cash contribution necessary for the event, approve an in-kind contribution of labor for support from the police department, fire department, recreation and streets divisions, or provide staff alternative direction. So a little bit of background. On June 30th of 2013, Stump Grinder Productions and the Lompoc Police Foundation, along with many, many volunteers, presented the first City of Lompoc Valley of the Flowers Criterium as part of the 805 Criterium Weekend. As reported to Council in September of 2013, the race was a huge success and has received recognition throughout the criterium community. As you know, a criterium is a bicycle race that takes place on a small and tight road course within a distance range of 0.6 to 1.5 miles in length. The Lompoc event is proposed for Sunday, May 11th, 2014, on the same course, closing parts of H Street and Ocean Avenue. The Lompoc event would continue to be named after the title sponsor, Firestone Walker, but would be presented by the City of Lompoc and would be status quo to last year's event. The streets along the course would be closed on Sunday, May 11th, beginning at 5 a.m. and opening in the 7 p.m. hour. The Lompoc Police Department will assist with crowd control and event security. The Lompoc Fire Department will be utilizing CERT volunteers as well as assigning an emergency response vehicle to provide for emergency medical needs at the event. The Streets Division will complete the Caltrans permit for the street closures as well as handle all the logistics related to the street closures. And the Recreation Division will act as the city liaison to the Criterium event and to ensure that all aspects of the agreement are enforced. The group this year is working to identify potential sponsors for the 2014 event, and also events that are going to encourage local children to practice bicycle safety and to further promote the Criterium event for the children's race, which was very popular last year. The group also plans to include many nonprofit organizations with fundraising booths, commercial vendor booths, and the trademark Firestone Walker 805 Beer Garden. In order for the City of Lompoc to sponsor the 2014 Criterium, organizers are requesting a $5,000 sponsorship contribution and an in-kind contribution estimated between $8,000 and $12,000 in equipment and overtime expense for fire, police, and street personnel. Funds for the sponsorship contribution are currently budgeted in the Economic Development Fund, and the in-kind equipment charges and labor costs will be charged to existing department budgets with no additional request for financial support, consistent within the manner used for other city-sponsored events. Before I conclude, I would like to share with you that at our organization meeting yesterday, we learned that the 2014 Lompoc event has received the designation as an elite championship race. This designation can attract higher level riders in addition to those we saw last year. Very exciting opportunity for us. In addition, the committee received confirmation that Buellton's race will take place the Saturday prior to our event. And also, there is a probability that Santa Barbara may host a twilight event on the Friday prior to ours, creating a 3-day racing weekend, attracting people to our community. So in conclusion, we are requesting Council to consider the sponsorship of the proposed Criterium for May 11th, 2014 in Lompoc, and to approve the expenses that have been outlined in this report. If Council approves the event, staff will develop the formal agreement with Stump Grinder Productions for the City Administrator to sign on behalf of the City of Lompoc. That's all I have for you. I'm available for questions, and we also have representatives from the Lompoc Police Foundation, Stump Grinder Productions, and the race community are here to answer any questions you might have.
Councilmember Holmdahl.
All right, question. I think it's an excellent idea. In fact, I talked to one of the racers yesterday. We had jury duty together, and he's very excited. The only problem he had for this coming year is May 11th is Mother's Day.
Yes.
And his wife says, bicycle riding on Mother's Day. So I mean, that would be one little small conflict. So other than that, it's an excellent idea. The one thing that you have to do this year, we didn't do that, if you didn't get around to, is meet with every business on the track. Because there were some that didn't know they was going to have it, they didn't know they were going to be closed. I don't think any more against it is the idea they cut out of the track. And so if they can send letters to everybody that's on the track, because the bikers love the track in Lompoc. It gives them a little bit of distance and everything else. And so the man I was talking to said, it's fantastic. It's one of the best tracks in the state of California. So that it isn't just going around in a circle, and then you had the win. And so, but anyway, just saying it's an excellent event, but that'd be one thing I would suggest that needs to be done is everybody, any business or anybody else on that track needs to know what's going to happen that day.
Yes, thank you. And in response to the Mother's Day comment, the race committee looked at the entire race window and opportunities, and this weekend is actually ideal for us. As a mother, I know it's not necessarily ideal for me to want to work a 14-hour day, but in the spirit of bringing our community together and bringing an amazing event to our community, it is well worth it. The committee is also trying to put in some elements that may attract spouses, wives, mothers out to the event, and working with some local vendors to make that happen. In response to the course and talking with those businesses. Last year, we had members of the Lompoc Police Foundation go door to door, letting everybody know about the race. This year, we have a little bit more time, so we can do something as informal as that and something more formal like a letter. And hopefully, we'll see a lot of these businesses come outside their doors like the tattoo shop did. They had a great time last year, and actually do some more business and kind of step out onto their sidewalk like we saw at the parade a few weeks ago.
Councilmember Lingle.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Actually, Ms. Plummer and Councilmember Humdahl's questions sort of took care of most of mine, so thank you. I did have one question. In the first paragraph under the background, it says that the 2013 race was a huge success. Can quantitate that a little bit for me? What determined it to be a huge success? I mean, don't get me wrong.
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
I'm just teasing.
No, I mean,
In our opinion as the committee, it was a huge success because we brought a lot of people that would not think of Lompoc as a destination location to our community. We showed off our community in a great light. We had a lot of positive comments. Everybody was excited about the course, as Councilmember Holmdahl stated. A lot of people are anxious to return. Our sponsor, even though our local attendance was minimal, our sponsor was very happy, so happy that they're coming back again this year as our title sponsor, are excited to be back in Lompoc, and we deemed it as a success because we learned a lot in the first year event here in Lompoc, and one of the things we did learn that the committee is committed to doing this year is educating our own community on what a criterium event is and what it is to come out to it and how it can benefit our community. And because we are in such a short time frame, our group did a great job marketing to the riders and bringing the riders to Lompoc, and we still are going to do that. We're still going to see that. We're going to see a higher elite population of riders coming as well because of our current status. But we also want to see more of our local people participating. Last year we were on Flower Festival weekend. We don't have that same competition. So this is an event for our community to embrace. The people that did come out really enjoyed it. And so we feel, because of everything putting together, that we felt it was a good event.
Okay. And I agree with you. I believe it was a success. I think on the short timetable we had last year, we didn't really promote it as well as we'd like to. The businesses on the route probably did not get notified enough. So this year, hopefully, we can involve them more. They can see more of a reward from this as well. Because actually, if we want to say it is a huge success for the city, we want to make sure that the money that the city puts into it is more than compensated for with our businesses and the reward with the community coming out and participating as well. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one quick one to follow up on it, why everybody liked it so well. I talked to several of the riders, especially one group in Ventura. They only had 15 people. They're going to have 22 to 25 this year. They love the course. It's really nice to have Buellton and have theirs before, because when they come to Lompoc, they got a real course. They just don't go around in circles.
Councilmember Costa.
Thank you, Marilyn. I actually Googled the Lompoc Criterium online today, and there was an amazing photo of 3 riders passing by a mural, the most beautiful riding photo I've ever seen. So it was such great scenery last year, and I think that was appreciated. I wanted to talk about Mother's Day. I'm also a member of the planning committee, and I don't know how it added up, but meeting after meeting, we really vetted the date, and it was really a challenge to find the right date. Mike Hecker really spent a lot of time talking to us about potential dates, and we would go over it, and this is really what came out to be the best date, as Ms. Plummer stated. But for those who are watching, we have some pretty cool ideas. Maybe red roses, and maybe some free massages. Maybe we'll get some fun stuff for the women, for the mothers who will be out there that day. So we recognize that, and we're going to try to address that. But overall, I'm really excited about this, and I appreciate the work that's gone into it so far. Thank you.
Councilmember Starbuck.
I just wanted to make a quick comment here. With it being Mother's Day, there are a couple of businesses that are going to have a pretty hard impact on that. And I'm thinking the Shamrock for one. The Divine is right there. The other would be the American Host. There's a lot of little logistics in there that those places usually do well on that holiday. So I mean, when you're doing your planning, I really hope you can make some balance for them.
The committee has addressed some of those issues. As stated, we plan on doing a better job in marketing to our own community, as well as those businesses that are open along the route that may have some barriers in getting to their normal parking spaces. The committee is looking at alternative signage or potentially alternative locations for parking, and working with our local media to get that word out and help spread the word.
Yeah, Councilmember Starbuck, and I think you know because you attended last year, part of that challenge is being sure we have volunteers where people can cross through freely, you know, not when the riders are passing, of course, but there is a lot, that would be weird, there is a lot of opportunity. It's not like they're landlocked inside and you can't get to them. It's just a matter of making sure we have the volunteers, we have that flow, and we are focusing on that, so.
Well, I'd like to acknowledge that last year, Pastor Fetterman was my crossing guard, and I crossed safely twice, and I appreciate that. So here's my idea. How about if you had an opportunity for everybody to come down and do a lap for their mom and get mom's name announced? We could invite all of our locals to come down and do a lap for mom.
That is definitely an idea.
Maybe they could even make a donation to their favorite charity while they did their lap for mom. And just to have a little fun, Mr. Stump Grinder, you know, we have an opportunity here in Lompoc for you that I think is unique because you're going to be working with the Public Works Department. And we actually have a stump grinder. And I just want to invite you to go out with the crew and find out how it really works. Okay. I'm pretty sure that council member, oh, wait a minute. Did we do oral communication on this? We didn't. We didn't do that. Okay. Who wants to talk to us about this subject? Come on, there's got to be at least one. You're going to double dip, aren't you?
On the crossing guard. Yeah, we had 50 volunteers from our church because we believed in this. It was a unique event. My son's a writer, also a city employee, and he and his friends said it was what Councilmember Rondahl said, the best course. And these guys ride this stuff all over the world. We also are the Central Coast, a training place where world-class riders come from all over the world to train, especially over in San Ynez Valley. And some of them were here, had never been in our city before. So as we're looking at bringing people to our community, this was a win for everybody. Mother's Day, okay. I think the Red Roses Moms Race would be awesome. Gift baskets for moms at the end, the top 5 mom riders. So let the moms ride like the kids ride. My grandson rode the kids ride. It was a big success. But, man, the top 5 could give big gift baskets and free stays in some of our hotels and free tour of the Public Safety Center. I don't know. I'm trying to tie it all in. But, and by the way, just really, I've only been here 27 years. But one of the things I saw was a collaboration with the fire department, the city department, our city streets department. Everybody worked together to make this a great success. And Hecker and his people, and of course 805 folks. I don't drink beer, but they were all impressed what was happening. So you know, I'll be there Mom's Day. I'll tell my wife to put up with it, and we'll come out and help again. And the last PS was, as volunteers, we came to the rec center, where, you know, some of Joanne Plummer's people were there, but also, oh man, Dennis, come on, Dennis Block from American Host ran the volunteers. It was so well organized. And when our people came in, they couldn't speak more highly of working with the community. So it's a great collaboration of everybody. So I'm all for it, and we'll be there again to help. And then we'll put you out there on the mayor and council ride. But the mother's ride would work. I think it would. Give roses and those baskets to the moms. I mean, come on. So let's do this again for Lompoc. I think it'll be better attended. And my PS, which stands for parting shot, is, that's what PS stands for, you know. My PS is, as we educate the citizens better. I had hundreds of people. What the heck is criterium? They had no understanding. It was cryogenics. They were asking all these questions. But once they saw it, it was great. And I think not having it with the Flower Festival, I think you're going to see lots of folks come to town. So thank you for thinking outside the normal. And let's do this. It's going to be better this year. Okay.
Who else?
Sitting down.
Anyone else? Going once? Going twice? Councilmember Starbuck.
Well, this is my PS. Second time tonight, I'm going to say this. I'll do the lap, but I'm not wearing the bike shorts.
Councilmember Costa, would you like to make a motion?
Excuse me.
And you can include the bike shorts if you want.
Pastor Fetterman's comment about the collaboration was something I wanted to mention as well. I mean, all the work of city staff, you're getting all of this in-kind contribution to this event. It's really exciting, and I'm excited, and I want this to happen. So with that, I would move that the council authorize the city administrator to sign an agreement to be prepared by staff with Mike Hecker of Stump Grinder Productions to conduct a criterium event on May 11th, 2014 in Lompoc, approve a $5,000 cash contribution necessary for the event, and approve an in-kind contribution of labor for support from the Police Department, Fire Department, Recreation, and Streets Division.
And a second.
I'm going to second it, but to follow up, but the one thing we did tonight is bring out what it's all about. And even though it is on Mother's Day, this one gentleman told me that, but we've looked at it, you looked at the reason for it, there's nothing wrong with it, but at least we knew about it. I'm talking about we, the whole city, when we put this together. And so it isn't something, well, you forgot about it. So, I mean, this is the way the public knows that that was looked at, and it's the best day to have it. And like you say, these guys are so excited about that track. I couldn't believe talking to them because the wind was the right way, and it was this, and nobody could get a lead on it. The way it was, you just had to go out there and get it. There's nothing to give you an advantage, is what they said. So that's what we have going for us. So my second is that. I'm sorry, a long second.
Is there any other discussion at this time? Seeing none, could we vote, please? And that passes 5-0, and I'm relieved because I anticipated this, and I sent a note to the Amgen people today when they sent me one of their 10 follow-ups for the year that we weren't interested because we had a criterium now. So I anticipated you guys. Okay, written communications. Do we have any?
Nothing.
That's 2 words you've gotten in this council meeting. And oral communications, 2 minutes to talk to us about anything. Anybody? It's early. Come on. Going once, going twice, gone. Coming back, council requests, comments, meeting reports, etc. from the right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did not attend any meetings at city expense, so I didn't have that, but I do have one council request. And this is something that I never thought I would hear myself requesting. Fireworks, yes, thank you. No, I mean, we've seen cities around Santa Barbara County requesting, no plastic bags and this ban and that ban. But a couple months ago, we were here in this council chambers and we had a public safety meeting for a joint meeting with our Public Safety Commission, police, fire, and the council. And there's a gentleman, a new community member that stood up. He had only been here a couple months, and he said he loves the community, but unfortunately he was not going to allow his child to do his favorite thing in Lompoc, and that was to go over to our local skate park. Because it was a very inconsiderate adult individual sitting at the skate park smoking marijuana. And the father of the child said, he went over I said, would you mind just leaving the area, smoking some other place? He says, no, I'm not going to, and you can't do anything about it because I have my medical card. So I'd like to, my council request is I'm going to put the city attorney and the chief, challenge them again because they've done such a good job with the spice and the panhandling. I'd like to see some city ordinance that just outlaws smoking in areas where the kids congregate, playgrounds, around schools. I don't want to necessarily outlaw smoking in our city. Maybe some people do, but I'd just like to get it out of the areas where kids congregate. I'd like to be able to tell that individual that said he has every right to smoke there at the skate park, whether it's a cigarette or marijuana. I'd like the kids to be able to feel safe there. So that's my council request, to bring it back for discussion on that.
Okay, seconds and thirds.
I'll second that.
And a third.
I'll go with you, Bob.
I'll go with you. And a fourth and a fifth. Okay, we got that. Next. Was that all for you, Bob? Okay, Dirk.
I have no reports.
I didn't attend anything at city expense. I did go to a bunch of meetings and talk to a whole lot of people. And I guess I would summarize by saying it's amazing the number of people that are reaching out to us to bring businesses and development to Lompoc. And the most exciting one is coming on Friday. But many others are talking to us about many other things that we can't share with you yet, but it's sure going to be fun. Councilmember Holmdahl.
Yeah, I just had nothing at council expense, but I did have a nice tour of the FCI. Even though I've been out there many times, I'm out there doing notaries in the 3 facilities. But I didn't know they had 300 head of milk cows, and they serve 17 different institutions all the way to Arizona from the facility out here. And then, of course, one of the best things they have is a black Angus herd of about 400 head of Angus cattle. So that was real good. And it was an excellent tour to notice that was going on out there, and that was teaching people that are incarcerated a job and what they're working on, and they got different ways of handling their milk. So I was really pleased. The only thing they did say, they're kind of waiting to find out when they can send their 10 inmates out to Lompoc to help clean up the town, but, you know, they got held up. So I understand that's getting put together.
Councilmember Costa.
I attended various community meetings, nothing at city expense, but what I did do today was I went out to Cabrillo High School, and Lompoc Unified School District Nutrition Services Director Kathy Bertelson invited me to lunch, and so I tried the Real and Fresh Grill, which I wish they had when I was in high school because the food was good. It was Chipotle style, if you've ever been to Chipotle restaurants in Santa Maria or Santa Barbara, where that's one of many. They have like 7 different options now that are very popular to try to get the kids to eat nutritionally balanced meals and stay on campus. And I just have to say I was very impressed. And so she invites any of you who want to go, Lompoc High School and Cabrillo both have Real and Fresh Grill to go have a nice burrito or burrito bowl. So that was great. Thanks.
Thanks. Okay. That would be it. So the Lompoc City Council will adjourn to a regular meeting at 7:00 p.m. on January 7th, 2014. See you next year.